I have to say, oh wow, I'm digging. This is the vibe. I'm pretty glad you found me. Okay, now, in case you haven't seen any of my videos, just by chance, just in case, uh, all of it is either out of body experience or remotely viewed. That's about, or intuitively, they might call it psychic, intuitively. So this is what this is all about: predictions, and my experience in jumping time and places, and I base all the videos on this. I'm going to make a really short video for me here because I can go on and on and on and on and on. And this one is about or understanding or being given an idea that you can build on. How's that? All right. Okay. So this particular one is, now brace yourself because you could think I'm full of you know what, and that's okay, really. I know my experiences. I know I'm being honest. I know I'm telling you the truth, so I can sleep at night and I could feel good about having had the guts to actually share it and put myself in such a vulnerable position by doing so. But it's not about me now, is it? No, it's about all of us. And okay, now I hope you're sitting down. This one here, well, I'm going to say an evening. I was lifted in the spirit there again, and I was taken to Planet X, Nibiru, planet of the crossing. And at that time, I wasn't completely understanding, was this another planet? Not right away. And as time went on, because I was shown multiple of different things and um, given multiple of different reasons, and for the most part there's a whole lot of truth being mixed in with a whole lot of rhetoric, and that you really have to sift through it all to find little bits and pieces of what reasons with you. And when something reasons with you, it's generally the truth, called gut feelings, but we're intuitively led to believe truth or want to believe that it is true. So I was taken there. And this one particular time, because I know it was more than once, I saw graduation. And these people that graduated, they were specifically pilots. And I remember a mother and her feelings and her emotions because of the flight that they were going to take. And that flight would have been from that planet to Earth. Now, you might think, ding, 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 she's off her rocker, what she's smoking, anything. No, 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 no. This is copy, this is straight up. Okay, so I remember her feeling very proud, because only the very best did these journeys, these pilots, and he was amongst them. Now, in this, I remember her being concerned and being worried. And she had said to him, remember the story, remember the history, remember the history of the other stars and other planets, because from the understanding that I was given, there had been adversities at different times. And not only was there adversity in different times on different planets, the history of a planet, the personality of the planet, the character of the planet, and they all had names of what we know as in mythology are gods. And when two planets collided, the way that they wrote everything down, they wrote it all down as if there was a genuine relationship between two identities, which it is because they're planets. But if you don't know that style or that thought process, and why it was written like that, it could confuse you as to, is this a legit person? Because we have to question that. But in this case here, they kept in a diary, a journal, but everybody learned it, and the pilots in particular, because they had to follow this certain way through the skies, okay, and go through wormholes, time holes, from one dimension to another dimension, we'll say, and manifest, right? Okay, sorry, I got a pain in my head, and I stop and go, oh my goodness, and then I pray I don't lose my trend of thought. Okay, so we're talking about the pilots and the fact that everything that is logged in a story-like sense, based on relationships. So love really has and plays a really big part of the culture and the understanding thereof. Now, like everything that we know, there is good and good and good, but you can be rest assured there's a bad apple, and there's a bad apple in every bunch. And this, I talk about one of my videos, um, as they were creating humans, but I never labeled it that. In fact, I'm thinking, the way that I posted everything, I've got different information where I know it fit in according to my experience, but somebody listening to it, I can't say, hey, look, in this particular video, you're going to find out this information, so on and so forth. And that's where I thought, okay, I better just go, step by step, experience by experience, to give people an understanding. And why? Because of what I saw last night. And I will get to that. I froze the screen and I stared at this one picture of a video. I just froze it at 2 minutes and 41 seconds. And I stared at it and I stared at it anywhere from, we'll say, half an hour to 45 minutes. And the reason is I went into shock. And then I told myself there was no more kidding around, and we are out of time. And I really have to, if I have to continuously repeat myself, I am going to. We really have to wake up, because it is all here. and it is all in the now. Now, nobody would like it more that everything, that is negative and evil just falls at the wayside. And, when the earth does what she needs to do, it won't be so severe on us, dwelling on the earth. That pertains to how much knowledge we attain, because it, in some circles, a lot of circles, if you don't think likewise, if you don't have a hive mind, then you're an outcast of all sorts, and that gives them, they think, an allowance where they can, from rudely dismissing to whatever. Let your imagination do the rest of that sentence. Okay, so looking at this, the mother said, okay, remember the history of it. And she asked him, and with a little bit of coaxing, he appeased his mother. And, she had heard enough where her heart soared. She was so proud of his achievement and the fact that he graduated with medals, and they are the number one pilots, and this journey to Earth is something that all of them know, and it is such a history to them that it is the same as us, where we story tell, and we have children and family, and and usually from grandparents, there's story time, and there's sharing of the world and the experiences prior to this, in this case, in this birth of technology. So Earth there, to like such these pilots, it is a story that's repeated through their ancestors, we'll say, okay, grandparents, um, uh, um, that, and even some, of their parents. But like I said, it's a history that has been taught and has been spoken about. But to some people, they've never been here. They don't know what it's like here. Some have a hard time believing that Earth is real and what goes on down here, and all the minerals that it had, and um, after it was allowed, after all the monsters were killed, and it was allowed to grow happily, it did just that. The earth became very prosperous, and it was full of abundance. It was being loved, and it was being nurtured, and it was being cared for, so it would grow. Now, their ancestors, and we're maybe talking about the first, the original Anunnaki when they got here. Well, Enlil was very strict. He wasn't evil, but he definitely was rigid. The law is the law, and there is absolutely no allowance. Ninmah, the scientist, the sister, very nurturing, very, very, very nurturing, but she did definitely not only was a scientist and creator, she was like a doctor as well. She was and militant. So you could not get anything by her, and if you thought you could play up to her, it annoyed her. She didn't appreciate it. What she appreciated was somebody having the dignity enough to come forward and honestly say, this or that, despite the fact there might be dire consequences. Because if that was the case, and it was dire, the fact that they had the guts, the respect, the self dignity to actually say, knowing that there could be dire repetition from it, she allowed, what's that word that I'm looking for? Um, she pardoned. She pardoned them. Enki was a scientist, and out of the three of them, he was the prankster per se. And what it was is that he had a sense of humor. He has a really good sense of humor, and but he did enjoy the fruits of the earth and what was in the earth and what grew. Even what and who he created, he also enjoyed them. If you know what I mean, when um, when in fact it came to uh, a law, a court, he was fair, but his punishments were severe. So you knew at all times, don't screw up. Because even though fair, his punishments were severe. So you didn't want to find yourself being guilty at any cost for any reason. Now, the humans, if they could do that, well, they were in good standing as long as that was the relationship. Now, yes, he did have, we've got this story that, the mining for gold and people were created as slaves and so on and so forth. It wasn't exactly like that because they didn't intend to create human beings. That was not their intention. They didn't set out to create them, despite what people say, despite, I mean, we could even argue about the clay tablets because I know it's in there. And I know it's in there because I saw the day that they were told, okay, so a high priest said, hide them. And this was because of the flood that was coming. And the lower that it could be buried, the better. And so that's what they did. And that's why they find a conglomeration of clay tablets all at once. Because it was like these underground libraries. They buried it knowing that the flood was coming. And they did not want, even if it meant that they perished, they knew that one day it would be found. So they wanted the proper history from beginning to end, that when found, you didn't have to go very far to seek out the truth, a history, because it was done. It was done for them, it was done for us. Okay, so the black hole. I gotta go back there, that's what this is about, and I go off. Okay, the black hole. Now, because you do have to go through what I would, I'm going to say two, definitely, three, maybe. And some of the pilots, when they get to the other side, meaning Earth, they're like, whoa. Yes, because they do jump through two, definitely two hoops, but possibly three. Now, when the pilots get in, they automatically, okay, punch in longitude. Um, oh, jeepers. Uh, okay, for a lack of, I'm sorry, like I said, I got pain in my head, so sometimes the words just don't come to me. It's altitude as well. And so they put in all these different numbers, and these numbers are um, uh, uh, what we would consider mileage, you know. So they want to get to Earth, and so they program the whole map into the computer of the ship, and then they hit go. Do. Now, navigating some of these, okay, it's really important because you might say, oh, well, then they could just sit back and be comfortable as they go. No, 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 no. And the reason is because of asteroids and meteors and stars and falling stars and ripples. I mean, we're not the only galaxy, all right? You know, and we've got to think big, big, even big, like maybe not the own universe as well. Yeah, check that out. So they punch it all in, and the story went like this, okay? That at one point, and I don't remember if this. I know that it was the second time, but I don't remember if the person I saw was the woman's son or not. I had seen that it was off by 2 degrees, maybe. I don't know. That keeps coming to me. The two. And what happened is this one ship, and that's where I'm talking about, the pilot at some point has to intervene when in fact it's, oh, they're in trouble. And this pilot did everything possible, like thrusting forward, trying to get out of the pull, the sucking in that the hole had on matter on the ship, on this guy, this pilot flying the ship. And I remember going, oh no, oh no, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And I had really hoped for that guy. And as he tried as he may, he really tried and to the best, and he was heartbroken, because he knew he would never see his wife again. I'm trying to remember if he had children or not. I mean, just the way that he felt, his heart was devastated. And what really freaked me out, I was standing there with an angel or a guide, and I guess they look like Pleiadians, but they come in robes, the people I see, and they're so bright. Anyway, um, when I was standing looking in, it went around and around and around and around and around, and I saw this ship going around and him in it, and I was going, oh wow, isn't there any way he could get out of there? Like, is there a pocket somewhere? Because like from the entrance right down to the center of this dark hole. And the guide, the angel, said no, and I said no. And he tried with all of his might and all of his mind. He tried to figure out how to get out of this and go back, because he didn't want to be there for an eternity. And it's horrible because he's alive. I know it sounds crazy, it's horrible that he's alive. Well, I remember him saying that this is like death and this is like hell. And nothing changed. Nothing. He kept going around and around and around and around for an eternity and never dying. Never dying. Just going around and around and around. And it never stopping. Now, his life, meaning like he stopped growing. He stopped growing and he stopped aging, and he was in this state forever and ever and ever. So I was tormented for him, when he was seeking death, because in death, he would be able to reach out and maybe not hold her the way that he could, but at least to tell her, hey, this happened. I didn't leave. They never found him, so they didn't know if they should consider him dead. And so, it ended up that some considered him dead and others considered that, he ended up somewhere and decided to stay. Stories for boys, right? That kind of thing. And I just looked at my guide and I said, oh, is this real? And when I said that, I was instantly went through a dimension, like I went through a wall of time. And in the wall of time, I saw this dark place, and it was very dark, and you could you would feel so disconnected, because in this, was this odd silence, and very far, few and in between would you hear words from other identities. And that being alone, like through all those stages, and I was just like, wow, this is what goes on in those wormholes. That's really freaked me right out. And I thought, I better tell people this. And when I did, it wasn't embraced, it wasn't welcomed. They just kind of went, smoke another one, have another drink. And I'm realizing I really need to talk about this. And then as time went on, I learned, to file it for the right time and the right day. So these wormholes. Now, when they went and left Nibiru, and all the goodbyes had been said by family members, and the captain in charge, or colonel, um, uh, general, let's get as high as we possibly can. He understood, but it was like, okay, men, that's enough, mush, 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 and expected them. He was very militant. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm drawing militant. And this was a mission. They had to man up, and everybody had their coordinates, and, everybody was locked and loaded and ready to go. Well, what ended up happening was history came very, very, very close to repeating itself. Now, like I said, I don't know if this is the gentleman from the mother that I had seen. Um, um, what I do know is that, again, like I said, history repeated itself. What happened, because like I said, there is no room for error. While you were coordinating, oh my goodness, um, um, and interpreting the map and programming your ship, if you're off, like just by even 0.05, you could go completely astray. You could be out there, and there is that darkness out there. I ended up talking about that, where Enki got lost in something like that. And then I had to condense it and make a long story short, they got out. And what actually happened to Enki that a lot of people don't I mean, I'm pretty sure the people that remote view, the people that are like me, they would know. Um, so anyway, history began to repeat itself, and all of a suddenly, and who caught it was one ahead and one behind. And they said, hey, you know what, something's not right here. You better check your coordinates because you seem off. And the person, for whatever reason, that pilot said, no, 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 you know, what can go wrong? You know, you're in front of me, kind of like he's the sandwich. You know, you're in front of me, and such is behind me. And so, therefore, you know, joking around, you know, I'm the meat in the middle. How could that happen? Kind of thing. And what ended up happening is at some point, I remember the ship veered right. Well, because of that slight degree, okay, it was enough that it did get caught, snared, actually, by the wormhole. It was snared. Okay, and what I mean by that is logically, you would think you should be able to launch yourself forward with all that power because it is just basically grazing you and not actually, you know, in its vacuum. But even the graze, it pulled, and the guy in front freaked and kept saying, oh my goodness, I told you so, I told you so. He seemed out of alignment, and those two tried to do something to maneuver, and it didn't work. So, you know, the one that was in front got a hold of the big guy on down, and so because it was a fleet, everybody regrouped. And what they ended up doing was like a chain of a chain period, and you know, from one to the other, and got a hold of him, of the ship, and started pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, and the vacuum suction from this hole is so powerful, so strong, that it really wasn't an easy task. It wasn't. And everybody was freaked out because, you know, no man down. You know, this has not happened in, you know, I want to say, you know, either a couple of millennias or centuries in their time. It hadn't happened forever. And all of a sudden, this actually happens. And all the guys that graduated, you know, they were in shock. The old Capitano, he knew, but, you know, they were going, oh my goodness, this shit is real. CHIT. Right? So, they did. They pulled and they pulled and they pulled, and there was no giving up until finally, you know, they yanked him. They yanked him out of the grip. But it took a while. It took a while. And they all kind of, you know, huddled. It's in. They were just all kind of floating and regrouping and talking um, to each other, all of them, and kind of getting their wits about themselves. And then, the captain said, any pussies here, basically, go home. You want to go home, go home, go home now. And you men that are men and are going to readjust yourself, readjust your pants or what's in them, and let's keep as per till we get to Earth. And so that's what happened. They all, after giving their head a shake and regrouping, and when they did go through, it was really neat. It was really awesome because it's truly like a Stargate. Truly. It is a not like the other dark wormhole with the vacuum. This was like a Stargate, and they went through two. But I noticed, like I said, when there seems to be something, I keep picking it up, but I'm not seeing it. I'm not understanding what it is. But like I said, it's almost like a test. And if you have to, or certain timing is something like that, and you have to get through. And I remember, going, whew, whoa, okay, made it. Like, actually made it. They couldn't believe they made it. They jumped through. So this is why I'm saying three, because there was a lot of zigging and a lot of zagging. And from this planet to another star in a different galaxy. This is truly how, I don't know about other ones, but what I've seen is similar, and that is the ships are all programmed. Now, programmed to do it with your mind for the most part, and some it is just as much as just your hand over it, and then it begins because I was shown the very first that landed here. So anyway, this is what you need to know about those holes, and that is some are generally like stargates, and destinations are always mapped out, and they are integrated into their ships, and then they are off. A lot of them, you know, come from planets outside of our galaxy, outside of our planetary system, our star system. And that's a whole other, you could just trust that we're all brothers and we're all sisters, and it doesn't matter what we look like. We have a purpose, and our purpose is sharing knowledge and making our experience as pleasant as we possibly can, be it yourself or you doing it for somebody that you care, somebody that you love. You want to do nice things for them, you want to do the best for them. Now, when they got to Earth, and it is through Crystal that they had connected to Nibiru. I got some of the technology, but not all of it. After my head trauma, there is a lot of visual that I don't get. There's a lot that I do, but some I have a hard time drawing on. Not the experience. I remember all the experiences, but it's the visual. I have to sometimes jump back and forth. You see me with my eyes going this way and that way, and that's because I'm recollecting, I'm going through the yellow pages of my mind. Now, they all radioed home, and they had heard about this, and everybody was extremely happy that it went well, that through their wit, smarts, strength, and determination. They didn't lose anybody on the journey. Being, and I'm talking about being sucked into that wormhole. Um, People I saw extremely relieved that their loved ones, whether it be husbands, fiancés, brothers, sons, the fact that they made it, they landed, and all is good. They heard all is good. Now, when I saw what these women and people felt, I thought, they have more of a heart than we imagine, because we think aliens don't have emotions, don't have a heart, don't understand feelings, and that's rhetoric. It's rhetoric. I mean, we do more so because of whose image we're made, and depending which one of the bloodlines did we descend from, the way we are in the here and in the now, whether it's positive or negative, we all feel something. We all feel something, something. Okay, so I was looking and resonating that feeling of happiness, knowing that my son got there okay. And as I looked into her heart and her feelings, and actually like viewing from her eyes, in that moment, I felt so brokenhearted that I stepped aside and I looked right at her, and she was almost, she was grieving, but almost weeping, you know. And I remember her thinking and saying, humans on earth just don't get it. The people on earth don't get it. We just don't get it. And when that was acknowledged, because I acknowledged it, I didn't know she could see me. She was somebody else that did see me, could see me, and said, you see, this is, this is coming from what they know, we know, I know, you know, is scripture. And I was like, wow, earth, mankind on earth has, even they had more love, and determination to succeed in that love on their planet than us. Now, I don't know if things have changed much. I'm going to say that that aspect hasn't changed because of something that I had seen between the Anunnaki and the Roman Catholic Church. Kind of weird. Right? Boy, you don't have it all wrong. Anyway. Okay. So these black holes, primarily, except for us, their education, their school, has to do with mapping out the roadway, the skyway for ships, and for other aliens, other life, other than, so there is a lot of traveling in and out, and we don't see it that way, but there's actual like roads. How about if I just put it that way? There's skyways, they're roadways, is one and the same, and including certain holes, okay, where they're like Stargate, and you warp. That's it. You just warp from one time frame to another. It's really wild. But the black holes, you don't want to get anywhere near them. And as you are being educated and you learn the maps of the skies, these wormholes are part of the education. So you grow up primarily knowing where they are. and how to avoid them. I don't know if our governments know that yet. I'm going to say because of some things that I heard, they might, and it's not even what I heard. I mean, look at the Philadelphia. What was that? I mean, they, got rid of a whole ship, and then it resurfaces 50 years later in Philly. You know, and there's a whole bunch of work that's done that way in time travel and so on and so forth. So, um, okay, so that is what I know about wormholes, that we as a planet in our educational system are not being taught, not about the roads underneath and not about the roads up above. And so when we see a lot of what we call UFOs, and you see them in fleets, now you know why. 10 to 1, they've never seen the earth. They've never seen people. They've never seen the species. Not the oxygen, not the water, not the greenery. Yes. So, think about that. Anyway, I'm going to leave that with you. And that's my experiences with dark holes, wormholes, that they are taught at a very young age that they are part of the Skyway. And like I said, we're the only ones that do not know. Okay, so if you want to know some more, let me know. I'm going to ramble a little more. I think you should share it. I really want to jump forward about what's going on in the here and in the now, because something really freaked me out last night. A video did. And it freaked me out so much that I actually poured a glass of wine because I just thought I need to calm my heart down. I'm digging. This is the vibe. Thumbs up so other people can know about this, because all this news and all this information is true. And like, share, you can subscribe, and what else? I don't know. I guess you have to bid me an adieu. Okay, until next time, I'm Diggin. This is the Vibe. Ciao, ciao.